What is up, internet? It is me, your friend, ChaseFace. I play Destiny, and I got some stuff I want to say about it. So I have a lot of formats I'm working on. I got rush reviews, I got the normal ChaseFace videos. I'm gonna work on something called Otaku Time. I finalized the name. It's gonna be about anime reviews and stuff. All that's just kind of a bunch of shit I'm just doing all at once right now because I'm incredibly disorganized and my brain doesn't work the way I ever want it to. But the way this is gonna be is I'm basically just going to talk about Destiny, and I'm gonna put it to a bunch of footage of me playing the game so you have something to look at. But honestly, if I were you, I would probably just leave it in the background like a podcast, because that is essentially what this format is kind of going to be like. I don't know if I'm going to do it all the time. Maybe if it's good and people like it, I'll do it more often, but I just want to get this thought out quickly without worrying about editing a bunch of shit and having it take longer. So you can just listen to it and be like, oh, finally, Chase made another fucking video. Okay, so first of all, the game itself, is it good, is it bad? It's incredibly mediocre. Like, I completely thought it was gonna be exactly how it is. I totally predicted this. And not to say like, oh, I have so much foresight, I'm so smart, I totally called it. But after experiencing Watch Dogs and noticing how they just hyped the fuck out of that, and just the way that they've been hyping every new game recently, I saw Destiny just like, it's coming, are you ready? It's gonna be so good, you're gonna kill other dudes, it's gonna be a good time. And I was just sitting there like, I have a weird feeling about this now. Like, I kind of immediately realized that they were just trying to make you think this was gonna be like 2014 Game of the Year, best game ever, best game. But it just, they overhyped it way too fucking much, and it can't stand up to all that pressure. Like, the story is terrible. The story is so bad. It's just, there's nothing there. And I mean, if this was BioWare, who's renowned for having the best story in any game ever, then that would be hugely disappointing. But because it's Bungie, you're like, oh, alright. Like, you just know them for making games with interesting designs, enemies with interesting designs, cool weapons, really good game feel, and you just get to play with your friends, and that's it. And the gameplay itself is really tight. Like, things feel fair most of the time. There haven't really been many times where I've died and I've been like, oh, this game is glitchy. Like, it's always been my fault. I didn't dodge, I didn't hide or anything like that. But that's basically the only good thing going for it. Like, the real draw is that it has MMO elements, which is what they've been saying a lot. They're like, it's not an MMO, but it has MMO elements, whatever the fuck that means. And the fact that you're constantly leveling up and you're sort of specifying your character trees, just like in Borderlands 2, it gives you that feeling of like, yes, I want to reach the next level, I want to just keep going, I want to see what cool perks I unlock next. And then there's also the fact that you have guns and armor, and you can unlock more stuff with those. I guess my complaint there is that you don't really get that many choices. There's like 3 or 4 upgrades per piece of armor. And for the scope, you have like 2 or 3 different options of scopes, and it has like an extremely negligible effect on the actual stats of the weapon. But otherwise, it's extremely linear. It's like, you unlock this, good job, now unlock the next thing. Okay, you're done. Hey, look, another better weapon. Go use that and delete this one. And it's really easy now for games to make you think that the game is, oh my god, it's so good, it's so addicting, just because there's stuff to do. Like, there's things to unlock and there's progression to be had. You know, you get to customize your character, change his color scheme, get a cool new cape and look awesome in front of your friends. And like, that's all cool and everything, but that doesn't make a good game. Like, just because something gives you a lot of options, I think a lot of games nowadays sort of prey on our ego, our desire to have a sense of individuality, that they just put so much time into making you feel like you have such personalization and customization that then everything else just comes secondary. But anyway, as for the other things about the game, the loading times are really stupid. There have been times, you know, you start the game and you press X, it's like, okay, loading. It takes like 20 seconds or something. And then you choose what planet you want to go to, and your ship is just chilling there for another 15 seconds, and then you go to the planet. And I didn't really notice until other people pointed it out, because I guess I'm relatively patient when it comes to game loading times. But the one thing that becomes apparent the more you play this game is the PvP was like their main thing, and then everything else in the game was an afterthought. Like, it's actually really funny. What I called the explore missions in the beta, was actually, they changed it now. Now it's just called patrol mode. I thought about it and I was like, that's actually a way better choice, because explore implies that there's a bunch of things to be found and discovered, and it's gonna be really cool, and you're gonna be on an adventure. But then they realized, and so did everyone else, that there's fucking nothing to explore. There's a bunch of areas with very ambiguous walls, and they only become really apparent once you try to run up to the walls or you know, like boost into it on your motorcycle thing, and it actually pushes you back. It's just like, hey, don't you fucking dare try to look for other things. We gave you this whole area. Be glad with what you have, okay? There's all the thing. Look, there's a guy over there. Go kill him. He might drop something. He won't, but you know, it's fun to imagine. You kill him, he drops like 20 glimmer. It's whatever. The enemies themselves are super stupid. In a lot of good games, like if I ever play a Halo game or Borderlands or whatever, and an enemy has me down in the red and I'm trying to wait for my shield to recharge, I always hope that the enemy will never like run up to me and confront me behind my counter. That's like the smartest thing an enemy can do. It's like, quick, he's weak, let's rush him, we got him. But enemies never do that in Destiny. Maybe they've done it like once or twice, but they walk up really slowly because they're really just slow enemies when they do it. But otherwise, enemies just kind of stand around each other and wait for you to come near them. And if you try to just run through them, it's just, you notice it's like an MMO. They'll run up to you like, hey, come back here. I don't care. And then they'll just go back to their little station where they were programmed to not wander outside of. The world is super, super small. There's like 4 areas. There's Earth, which you got to play in the beta. There's the Moon, which you got to play like 1 mission of for a couple of hours at the end of the beta. And then there's Venus, and then there's Mars. Venus is like a jungle, Mars is like a desert. And then there's this one other place, like a nebula or something, and you just go there to have conversations with this queen. It just triggers cutscenes, and that's it. And I saw it, I was like, oh, this looks cool. It's gonna be like a really spacey, sort of ephemeral, very dark area. No, it was literally just a hub you go for the story in order to like trigger more progression. So that was a little bit disappointing. Mars is really cool just because it reminds me a lot of Star Wars. I don't really know what the planet's called, but like the big desert planet where, I remember there was a game a long time ago in the arcades where you could like, it was like pod racers, and you could sit in the little racing chair thing and race your friends, and it was always in like a desert environment. And I was just riding my bike there like, yeah, this is a good feeling, I'm liking this. The thing that really reinforces the idea of the world feeling so small, though, is that each area, you look at it and it's like a big map, and you're like, oh, that's cool. There's a lot of things to do. There's a lot of missions, a lot of strike missions I can do with, you know, 2 other players. But each time, you do like 1 mission, and let's say you walk like, you know, 100 feet, and then it's like, oh, you killed the guy, good job. The next mission, you walk 200 feet. Or maybe you walk 100 feet and then turn left instead of right. And that got really stale really fast, because then you realize that you were just, the game is a grind. You realize you were just grinding the more you were doing this. And it wasn't like, yeah, I'm exploring a world. It was just like, all right, where's the waypoint so I can finish this mission and get my gun and feel cool with my new shiny, powerful gun. And that's not what you want to feel in a game that tries to pride itself on like, you're on a distant planet and you're space explorers, you're the Guardians and you're saving the universe. It's just like, hey, go down here and you beat the mission, good job, use a gun. And it's just fucking stupid. I don't like it. Like, if it wasn't for the fact that the game itself was so incredibly well programmed for like, you know, the physics and the way the guns feel and accuracy and everything, then this would just be the most fucking forgettable game in existence. Like, there's that one game, it was like an Xbox 360 shooter, I'm forgetting the name of, I'll put it on the screen here. It was based on a TV show, like a sci-fi TV show, and it just, from what I saw of gameplay, it didn't look very good. Maybe the plot line wasn't very compelling. I really didn't pay that much attention to it, so I don't know. I think just the fact that this was done by Bungie is like the only saving grace, because people hear that and they're like, oh, I grew up with Halo my whole life, this is gonna be great. And then they play it and they realize that it's kind of addicting with all the customization, and they're like, this is amazing. And then anyone that comes along and they pick at it, they're just like, shut up, you don't know what you're talking about, it's a great game. And the thing that bothers me the most is that when I was playing the beta, I would leave comments on the Destiny Facebook page, and I would just say like, hey, this is really fun, but this is one concern of mine, and I kind of hope this doesn't turn out the way that it does. And every time you make any valid point, people will go, come on, man, it's just a beta. And it's like, that doesn't mean anything. Like, yeah, if something's a beta or it's early in production, then I can understand if there's a glitch. It's like, oh, okay, that won't be in the final version. You know, that's just a tiny little issue. They're gonna polish that in the final version. But if it's like a massive aspect of the gameplay, like, hey, the looting system is not very good and it feels really, really selective and scarce, and people go, shut up, man, it's just a beta. It's like, that, they're planning on making that in the final product. Like, I don't know how you can dismiss that with like, they're still working on it. It's like, yeah, but that's how it's gonna stay, probably. What am I even talking about anymore? I don't know, I'm just gonna keep going with my list here. One of the things that bothers me too is the weapon perks are really random and inconsistent, and they give you a lot of hard choices to make. Like, you'll have one piece of armor that's blue, so it's like rarer than all your green or plain pieces of armor. And then it'll be like, lets you carry more ammo for hand cannons or pulse rifles, but let's say you want to use a scout rifle or an auto rifle or something else. Then do you go for another piece of armor that benefits you in the weapon you choose to use? Or do you put up with this piece of armor that doesn't really benefit you, but you know, it's got more defense and it gives you more strength? Like, there's a bunch of different aspects of the weapons and armor that can change the way you play. There's like strength and discipline and intelligence, I think. I think discipline has to do with your grenade cooldown. Strength has to do with like your melee ability, and then I forget what intelligence is for. Basically, my guy is geared out completely to just like have really, really, really fast grenade cooldowns. And then I also have armor that will let me recharge my super ability faster the more grenades I use. So I'm just lobbing grenades and popping off supers, and it's cool. But I just turned 20 and now I'm using armor that gives me like motes of light, so they let you like upgrade to level 24 or 25, whatever the cap is right now. Which sucks because I know that those aren't going to complement what I'm already focusing on in the game. Like, eventually my guy's just gonna stop having emphasis on grenades, which sucks because I love using grenades. They cool down like once every 20 seconds, it's awesome. So anyway, the short point I'm trying to make is that it's just a complete fucking chance that you'll get the piece of armor that you want, which is kind of a null point, I understand, because that's the way it is in Borderlands as well. That's just kind of a problem I can't really recommend a solution to, because in Borderlands you'll find like a really strong pistol and you're like, that's great, but I hate pistols. I really want to use a machine gun or a rocket launcher or something else that isn't single shot and slow and feels really unintimidating. And on the topic of weapons, in Destiny, the game, tell me if you've had this experience or if I've just had shitty luck. I find that the game really, 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 really wants you to use pulse rifles more than anything. I've gotten so many pulse rifle drops, and I want to use a scout rifle. I like the single shot precision, it just feels good to me for some reason. Auto rifles are cool too, but I never ever use hand cannons. Luckily, I've only ever found like 2 or 3 hand cannons in the whole game. But I just find so many pulse rifles, and then when you beat the final mission, they give you like a really cool pulse rifle that everyone gets when they beat the game, so of course you're gonna use that one. But I kind of wish that they gave you like an equal spread of every kind of weapon, and not just like, hey, you're gonna get a fuck ton of pulse rifles, and you know, if you want a hand cannon, I guess you're out of luck. Because that doesn't mean you're using the weapon that you want to use. That means you're just using whatever the best choice is. Like I was saying earlier, yeah, you get a piece of armor that has shitty stats, but it has really good defense, or you can use the blue item that doesn't have as good of defense, but it gives you a lot of perks. Like, you can upgrade it to really do a lot of cool stuff, and it's a hard choice to make. Another thing that kind of bugs me is that the game prides itself on being this big adventure, and you're gonna meet a bunch of other guardians. You're gonna meet a bunch of other guardians, and you know, you're all gonna just do stuff and hang out and kill people together. But it doesn't feel connected at all. It feels like I'm playing, like in World of Warcraft or any other MMO, you'll have like dungeons just for your group of people. I forget what the term is. I forget a lot of things. You might have noticed that by now. And so it just feels like your dungeon. And in a game where it's just you and a group of friends, and you're trying to get to the very end and fight the boss and feel like the hero, that's cool. But in a game where I'm exploring, I would love to just meet a bunch of other people. Maybe they did that because they figured that it would just be a huge shit show if everyone was just throwing everything they had at a boss that's supposed to be really formidable. And then it just ends up dying in like a couple of seconds because everyone just destroyed it with a huge mob of people. But I guess it's disappointing for me because there was one time when I was in like the jungle jungles of Venus, and I was trying to fight this giant dude with a shield, and you could only just like jump out for a couple of seconds, pop out a couple of rounds, jump back into cover, and wait for him to blow up the area you were just standing in before popping out and doing it again. Then there was another guy who came around, and we kind of locked eyes for a second, and then we both looked at the enemy, and we immediately sort of had this moment where we're like, okay, I'll do this, you do that. And I just like, I ran ahead, and he was just leaving a trail of explosions behind me, and I got him from the back. And this is one of those enemies that has like shields, where it has just like a shield rotating around its body at all times. So when I ran across the field to give this guy a moment to shoot the enemy from behind, then it felt like we were coordinated and we were being really intelligent about it. And then afterwards, I noticed that he was waiting up for me, like he wanted to, you know, keep partying up with me. And I think right then maybe you can like invite somebody to be in your fire team right then and there. Maybe it's not so much of a flaw as much as it is just me overlooking a big detail. But like I wanted to party with that guy. After that, we like ran over a small hill and got deeper into the jungle, and then it gave me the little title, like you've entered a new area. And then he vanished off my map, and it was just me. Fucking A, man. Like I wanted to play with that dude. I want to get to know him. You know, that's the thing that I really want about like an open world experience. I'd want to just adventure, find a dude who helps me, and then it's like, hey man, thank you. You know, you got my back there, let me repay you in some way. Maybe I can give you a rare piece of armor or a nice weapon or something for your trouble. And that's what I enjoy in these kinds of MMO experiences. And by the way, on the topic of being an MMO, this is like the stupidest fucking MMO you can ever have, just for a couple of things. All you do is shoot. That is literally the bulk of the game. There's no crafting, there's no way to roleplay, which I'm not big on roleplaying, but sometimes it's nice just to have the option, just to kind of, you know, pretend to be a very chivalrous, strong knight who defends the weak. Or, you know, like a sneaky thief who just cares about himself. Like little shit like that just is fun, and it kind of adds to the overall vibe that you get from the game. But you have 4 emotes, 4 of them. You have point, sit, wave, and dance. And dance is kind of the only one I really care about. And my character, when he waves, I'm an awoken. When my character waves, he bows forward and puts his hands out to his side. Almost like he's reaching behind him to ask his friends to give him a low 5. And that doesn't look like a wave to me. It just looks like I'm trying to look really cool. And I'm like, hey man, check me out. I'm fucking sweet. Check out this armor. So that's kind of irritating that there's only 4 fucking emotes. It would have been cool if, yeah, they have those 4 emotes, but if you also want to plug in a keyboard, you can type like /, you know, whatever, and then people would sort of feel the need to get a keyboard so that you could communicate more meaningfully with people, and that you could actually type like /throw or /laugh, /sulk, anything like that. Like that's why I like Final Fantasy XIV, not all of it, but that's one of the things I like about Final Fantasy XIV is that you have like fucking 300 emotes, and you can just do whatever you want in that moment to convey emotion to somebody without use of text. And on the topic of lack of communication, there's no voice chat at all. And people have been complaining about that for a while. It wasn't in the beta, and then of course people were like, it's a beta, what do you expect? Ugh. But it's still not in the final game, so someone fucked up. They'll probably install a patch later on to remedy that, because when you're in a fire team, you can't talk to your fire team members. When you're in an online game, when you're doing capture and you're supposed to coordinate with your team tactically and capture all the points, then you can't fucking talk to people to figure out where you need to go. Or like, I'm gonna hold down A, you guys come over here, we need help with C. There's none of that. You're just playing team deathmatch with a slight tactical vibe, and you just hope that all of your other teammates are as organized as you, which of course they aren't. I'm pretty sure what happens is the best players just hang out with the other best players, and they just go into a party and they just play for 8 hours straight, because like most games I have played against other people, it has just been me losing, and I'm always the best player on my team. Not to say I'm not inherently amazing at first-person shooters, but all the good players are like rallying together and just crushing everybody else, and it's not fun. Like, I don't like it. I avoid the PvP. And one of the other reasons I avoid it is because everyone is so incredibly elitist and cheap online. Like, I was playing one game of Control, and literally not a full minute had passed, and the other team got points A and B. And then I paused to see like what the score was. Half of my party had left. Literally, people saw that we weren't immediately winning, and they said, fuck this, I'm gone. And they didn't want any part of maybe kind of losing. Like, the other team, I think the first person had like 600 points, I had like 400 points, and they were just like, no, not even gonna bother. Why should I even fucking bother right now? This isn't worth my time, and they just left. And I was just sitting there like, come on, you guys. Similarly, when you're fighting a strike, which is, you know, maximum party of 3 people, which, you know, totally ideal for multiplayer, only 3 people. Those games will go on for upwards of 30 minutes. I've had them take sometimes like 45 minutes just because we're all right at the level of the boss, and so it's just, we're just chipping away at his health. And bosses are annoying because you'll get them down a little bit, and then they'll summon like 30 enemies, and then they're all like hitting, you know, which they'd be weak on their own, but they're all hitting you at the same time. So it just kills you. Your health just drops immediately. So you're like, all right, this is annoying, so then you have to kill all the minions, and then you get more time to kill the main dude, and then he immediately summons more minions again, and it's like, okay, it's just he's using stalling tactics to make the battle feel more drawn out and intense, and that's not what happens. It ends up feeling incredibly tedious, and you're just like, wow, this boss is taking a long time to lose his health. And there's also the fact that you can respawn after like 25 seconds, was it, when you die? But if all 3 people die, then you have to restart at the checkpoint right before that, which is, you know, that makes sense, that seems balanced. You have 2 people dead, the last guy isn't careful enough, he gets killed, all right, start over. But most of the time, if it's a long, drawn-out battle, people don't want to take that risk to try it again with people who don't seem to be up to par. So like 8 times out of 10, after we decide to restart, I'm standing there, I look at one dude, he brings up his ghost, and then he vanishes because he just quit. He's just like, I don't want to fucking waste my time with you guys. You guys are probably the reason why we're losing. I'm doing great. So people are really, really fickle when it comes to their loyalty in strikes because they don't care. They just want to get their weapon and be out of there. They don't have the time, I guess. They're fucking playing Destiny. They have some amount of time, but they're impatient people. I think that's kind of all that I can say immediately about the gameplay. It's just stale, and it's kind of shitty, and I was really hoping they would do better with it. As far as like the voice acting goes, I've never heard one voice, except for one. Of all the voices I've heard, Peter Dinklage is terrible. I'm not the biggest Game of Thrones fan, but from what I've seen of the way he looks and the way he acts, he seems like he really carries the show well. And when I heard Peter Dinklage was gonna be your little robot dude, I was like, okay, that's a choice you made, I guess. Like, that isn't like, oh god, that's gonna be such an exceptional performance. Like, you wanna hear my impression of Peter Dinklage playing the robot? There seem to be some robots in the area. You might want to check that out. Or like, the Fallen will attack you and he'll be like, Fallen, get out of there. Like, that's it. That's his range of emotion. He's so fucking flat, which to some degree might be like fitting. Like, yeah, you know, he's playing a little robot and this robot is relatively stoic and serious and you don't want him to get too emotive because then, you know, then it becomes too much like Claptrap or whatever. And that's another thing that occurs to me. I feel like a lot of the choices they made in the game were just made to juxtapose the differences between Destiny and Borderlands. Like, they're like, oh, you have a robot that's really funny? Ours is gonna be a little funny, but mostly very classy and serious. But Peter Dinklage just sucks as the robot. There was one time when I liked him. There's a part where like this sniper woman who plays a pivotal role in the story, I guess, comes along and calls him like Little Light. And he's just like, oh, feels like he was condescended because his name's not Little Light, his name is fucking, I don't even remember what they're called. That's just how underwhelming this game is. I don't fucking remember anything about it. It's like, it was a thing and I don't know, I don't really care. But she calls him Little Light, and then after he leaves, my character goes, you know, that'll do, Little Light. And then he just kind of looks at you, and he pauses, and he says, don't do that. And that was like the only time I was like, ha, it's kind of funny. As for the voice that was good, the one voice I mentioned, Crispin Freeman voices the awoken male voice. I don't know about any other race, but Crispin Freeman does a lot of anime and video games. He did like Alucard from Hellsing, and he just has very dulcet tones, and he's a very smooth, handsome character who always plays the most handsome characters in the show. And so he was a really good choice for the Awoken male because the Awoken are just, they're like these very effeminate sort of like male model looking characters. So I was glad to hear Crispin Freeman was in the game because that keeps it from being incredibly generic. He has a cool voice. But aside from that, literally nothing else stands out. Oh, and real quickly, back on the topic of PvP, I think one of the things that could probably help out with people quitting early is penalize them or something, give them a reason to not want to quit. I think in Halo, they would like harass you if you try to leave. They'd be like, oh yeah, you're a quitter, you know, you're gonna quit, you're a loser, you big loser. And then it makes you be like, I'm not a fucking loser, I'm gonna do this. And then you're pushed to like prove the game wrong. Like, how fucking dare you, I'm not a pussy, I will win and you'll all see, you'll all recognize my victory. But literally, Destiny just goes, hey, you know, you're not supposed to do that. That's not a good idea for you to do. But otherwise, it's like, okay, I mean, I guess if you want to leave, you can. You're fine to leave. It doesn't really try to tell you what to do or what not to do. It's just like, you probably shouldn't, and you're like, I don't care, and it's like, neither do I. Like in Final Fantasy XIV, sorry I keep using that as an example, but it's like one of the only fucking MMO experiences I've had recently. If you go into a duty, as they call it, which is like a random dungeon that you can do with other people, if you quit prematurely, it makes you wait a half hour to go back into another one, which sometimes that's fine. I'm like, fine, I'm not gonna play anymore tonight anyway. But if I'm still gonna be playing and I wanna jump back in and I wanna just get my items and my armor or whatever and just log out of the game, then now I have to wait another half hour. That just took away my time. That's a punishment. I don't wanna fucking quit early. So it doesn't even become about like, I wanna help out these people and not inconvenience them and not be a douche. Like if there's no penalty in an online game where I have no identity, like yeah, I'll be a douche, I don't really care. But if I know that it's going to impact me negatively, then that gives me another reason to not want to leave early. I'll be sitting there like, I want to leave early, but that's gonna happen, and also I guess it would be mean to do whatever. But then that's something that's in place to, you know, encourage you not to quit early, and they have nothing like that in Destiny, so that would really be a nice addition for them to add. I don't even know if it tallies your kills or wins or losses or whatever. From what I've seen, I don't think it does. But that in and of itself isn't really enough of a demerit to make you play nice. Like there's some people who won't care how many losses they have as long as they get their experience points or they get their armor or they get their marks or whatever it is. And they'll literally leave and leave and leave and leave until they get into a game that's good and works for them. So that's one thing that I think they could really use to improve the game as it stands right now. They have a lot of things planned. They have a lot of events. I think there might be one going on right now or tomorrow or something like that, which is good because the game just started. They already realized that people would quickly reach maximum level. I did it in like 4 days and I played really casually. I was like, let me play for like 2 or 3 hours and then I'll quit. So they're giving you a bunch more reasons to keep playing and saying, oh, don't go away. There's more shit right around the corner. Even after you beat the final mission, it's really funny. That one sniper woman, she's like a sniper exo girl, and she says it like 4 or 5 times. I'll play it here. She basically says, don't stop playing, there's so many more things to do. And it's supposed to come off as like, no, please, like, the darkness hasn't vanished yet, we need you, you're going to save us. But it really is obviously just like, please don't trade this game in, please. Like, here, watch this.
It's a day for pretty speeches and medals. But we know the real fight takes place out there. There's so much more, Guardian. All ends are beginnings. Our fight is far from over.
So yeah, I thought that was kind of a little bit pathetic, that the game was just like, please, we love you, we need you. So hopefully all the events planned will help keep the longevity of the game going. It might be too late. I already saw that Polygon gave it a really accurate and just honest review. Not like, fuck this game, but just like a really intelligent like dissection of why it isn't good. So I'll go ahead and link that in the area below. Even if you look on Metacritic, it's like, there's like, you know, 1,000 good reviews and like 700 terrible reviews. And do you want to know why? Because they overhyped it. Everyone was expecting it to be something like Borderlands combined with Halo, and it was just, basically Destiny is just if Halo saw Borderlands and how much attention and high praise it was getting, and just crossed its arms and turned to the side and said, huh, whatever, I can do that too. That's what Destiny is. It's just Bungie going, yeah, we can fucking make a cut of this profit. If they had just hired some guys to take down the invisible walls and give you a really cool wide area to adventure in, then it would have been cool. But they just give you these tiny little hallway areas outside, and then they lead into these big open areas with like cover that enemies can hide behind, or tiny little buildings or huts or whatever. And you're supposed to think like, oh, that's cool, I'm in their stronghold, I'm gonna go kill them. But then you compare that to how you feel when you play Borderlands 2, and there's like, I think like Caustic Caverns is a cool area to me. There's just all these little winding areas and these little hidden kind of semi-underground areas. And then there's hills and there's the little Minecraft Easter egg in there. You could kind of go out into the waters a little bit. There's just a bunch of gold crystal monster things and you kill them and then they drop what is essentially pure money. And I'm like, yes, this feels good. I could do this for no reason other than the gratification of getting money from an enemy. But even then, there's like more things way, way further out. There's like a little island, and you could run out there if you don't die. If you survive, you can get to the island. And then there might be something there. I don't remember if there is, but just the idea that there's the suggestion that there's more out there that's completely optional. That's one of the things I really like about these kinds of games. But that is pretty much everything I think about Destiny. It's sort of like I said in my beta impressions video, where things feel unbalanced, and it doesn't feel like they had the right priorities in mind. It feels like they just It feels like it was just Bungie being Bungie, like, we've been doing this for a while. We know what we're doing. Don't fucking worry about it. Just shut up and play the game. Like, we started first-person shooters, motherfucker. We'll do it just fine. And so I actually had a part like that in my beta impressions video, where I was gonna basically accuse Bungie of doing what they want and ignoring what players want. But I removed it because I thought it looked a little too presumptuous. I had seen that Bungie was like, hey man, we're listening to your fan input, and I don't think they are. I don't think they care, because they're just gonna do what they want to do. And then if it's also convenient, if you also happen to suggest an idea that they were thinking of implementing anyway, then like, yeah, sure, we may as well do that, we're planning on that anyway. But it doesn't seem like they really care that much. There's not a lot of passion or love put into this game. It's just the most fucking bare bones experience ever, and it's really disappointing. But I'm not surprised at all. I literally thought all of this was gonna happen. I was actually talking to my friend, and I was like, dude, we should play this game. And he was like, yeah. And then I said, I don't think it's gonna be that great though. And he said, yeah, probably not. And we were both right. It's just like, okay. You could totally see it coming from a distance. This is gonna be incredibly mediocre, don't get your hopes up. But there are a lot of people who thought it was gonna be the fucking be-all, end-all multiplayer open world shooter game, and I'm sure they're super pissed, and they immediately demanded a refund and turned their game back in or whatever. But anyway, that's basically it. Like I said, Polygon gave it a really accurate review, so I'm gonna go ahead and link to that below. I think they did a way better job of saying everything I said in a more succinct, intelligent, accurate way, so definitely check that out. But what do you think? Did you like the game? Do you think it was shitty? Are you like super mad at how it actually ended up being? Did you reach maximum level? Have you only been playing casually recently? Like, what do you think? I got the digital version, so I'm fucked. I have to play it now. I have to hold on to it. And also let me know what you thought about this whole kind of rambly podcast format. I might do it in the future if people like it enough, but I just thought I'd do it because I've been really fucking unambitious lately, and I was like, this is something I can just do and just shit it out, and people will have content from me. But anyway, thanks guys for watching, and let me know what you think.